28th City Council meeting. I appreciate everyone showing up. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We want to wait.
Somebody in the back is doing this.
Oh. Welcome everybody to the January 28th meeting. I want to welcome you all here. I want to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Could I go ahead and get everyone? Amanda Mager, would you mind calling the meeting to order?
Mayor Sawatsky.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Scavani.
Here.
Councilmember Fire.
Here.
Councilmember Napier.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis Lesso.
Here.
All right,
Madam
now that we have a quorum, let's go ahead and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation
Can I get a motion? Actually, does the public wish to make any comments on the agenda? Yes, go ahead.
Adeline Jones,
Former Mayor. Does it show green? Okay. Adeline Jones, former mayor. I would like to point out that the closed session at the beginning of a meeting is a very bad idea, especially in the winter time. It's different in the summer when you can excuse people outside and we can just be out in the parking lot and it's nice weather and it's light out. But sending people out in the cold this time of year, not a good idea. How many will just go home? The council serves the citizens of Blue Lake. I understand you may want to have the closed session first so you can send the lawyer home, as that costs the city money. But perhaps you could have your closed session earlier, say 5 o'clock, and then have your regular meeting. As mayor, I always advocated for the closed session to be at the end, just for that reason. Again, remember, the council serves the citizens, not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me. Kent Sawatsky, I would like to concur with the former mayor of Blue Lake regarding the process. It distresses me a little bit that my understanding is most of the agenda is set by the city manager, and this policy having been before, should have recognized this and we shouldn't be in this position. So the recommendation I think I would make would be that I don't know what to say. My recommendation on things of this, if you're going to have it, if you need to have a 6:30 meeting to accommodate possibly staff, if you go ahead and have a time certain from, let's say, 6:30 to 7:30, and then we know to show up at 7:30. So I think that's a potential solution for the future. And I would appreciate that. I don't know how to deal with it this time. I really don't, other than just I maybe ask the city attorney to cease to participate and cease his billable hours this time and call back in at a time around 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the agenda only? This is not for public comment. This is on the agenda only. Anything that need to be moved around?
Okay.
We have one person on Zoom. I believe it's Julie. Go ahead, Julie.
Yes, this is Julie Christie. It sounds like you guys can hear me good tonight.
Yes, we can. Go
Yes.
ahead.
If there's an option to turn up the volume for the Zoom participants, in the past that's been an option. It is very hard to hear you guys tonight, and I do see you're all using your microphones appropriately. I will concur with the two prior speakers, our prior mayor and Kent. I do agree that the closed session should be dealt with in another manner, perhaps a special meeting. If we could put those more appropriately towards the end, I think that would make a lot of the public pretty happy. It is very hard to get on Zoom again after that. And there are people still waiting to get on Zoom. So if the host could check that, I got a message. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring, it doesn't even,
Well,
so do we
I,
want to?
I would like to change the agenda order, and I guess the question is, for our attorney, whether or not he can come back to our meeting, at a later time tonight. Is he still here? There he is, I think. The screen got really tiny.
I'm sorry, you were cutting out a bit, but what was the inquiry?
The question is whether or not you're able to return at a later time this evening so we could have our closed session later in the evening. Is that possible?
Oh, I know you to modify your agenda to do that. Yeah, potentially we could. With the technical difficulty, I could travel to you as well. I'm here in Eureka. By the time I get there, what would be your estimate in terms of what time that would be, Mandy, based on your agenda tonight?
I am not really sure. I mean, there's a few discussion items. There's not a lot of action. We have a large consent agenda. I don't, honestly, Russ, I'm not really sure. It just depends on how in depth people want to get for the discussion items. I don't have a lot to offer outside of what I put in my reports for the discussion items, but that would be, if council has additional items.
Yeah, at the council's discretion. If the council would like to call the closed session at a later point in time, that's fine. Or if you'd like to proceed now, that's fine as well, obviously.
Councilmember Napier?
Yes, thank you for your input, Russ. I think with these items, we could even consider doing this as a special meeting at another time for these for the closed session. We were kind of 0 for 2 on getting out of here on time, and I'm finding it pretty taxing and affecting my work to go beyond 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11. So I know that we're all, eager or anxious to proceed with the closed session items, but I do agree, Adeline, we agree. I agree that the citizens do come first. If we can make that a combination by way of either we are done by 9:30, I'm just putting out that is becoming a limitation for me, or we could see what your availability is to reschedule and do this as a special meeting for the closed session items.
What is the procedure? Or I guess we should go ahead and take a vote
Well,
on.
I would just offer, I know that at our training, it was discussed that we can continue a meeting without noticing the meeting. So we can continue within a 5-day period, I believe. So potentially we could continue this meeting to have the closed session on tomorrow night or Thursday night or any time within the next 5 days. Is that correct?
The recommendation would be that you just reset and issue a special meeting notice and agenda for this item if we're only to continue one item in the meeting based on a time convenient for the council. We could be readily available, but yeah, if it's a council's prerogative, I'd like to consider this matter at a future meeting or by a special meeting, that's fine. But we should probably just issue a special meeting notice for the item.
And just so you guys know, Ryan is also here. Ryan also rearranged his schedule to be here because you have 2 items, one with Russ and one with Ryan.
Oh.
So he's over at City Hall finishing another meeting that he was at to be able to come over here. So
Yeah, Mandy, he's attending for a different item though, correct?
he's yeah.
Mhm.
Your real property, he's public employee performance.
How about we set the closed session for 8:30 and we do as much of our agenda as we can between now and 8:30? Would that work for everybody?
Yep.
I see some nods. Can we do that? Does anybody feel like that's gonna work?
We'll need a motion in a second.
I would make that motion that we set a time certain closed session for 8:30 and we do as much of our agenda as we can before that and continue the rest to another date.
Um,
Do we have a second?
and then we'd still be wherever, whatever point we're at 9:30.
Yep.
Okay, so just to reflect back, the motion is to change the current agenda to have the public, essentially publicly involved part first, and do what we can up to 8:30, and then 8:30 to 9:30 to work with the attorneys.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, we'll go for a second on that.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I
Okay.
Aye.
Hi.
Can you do that, Russ?
I'm sorry, so they would like to conduct this closed session at 8:30?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I could be available. I'll just, it's at the council's prerogative. Can you hear me okay? I really don't want to come back at 8:30 if you can't hear me.
Yeah, no, we can hear you really good.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, actually, it's difficult to hear you. It's like you cut in and out, the council members do. But if you could hear me okay, that would be good. But if not, I can come into Blue Lake. Your discretion, Mandy. What would you like?
I think we could just do it via Zoom.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to drive to Blue Lake, that's fine, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
much
well
to
then I'll
guys.
just try and check back in at 8:30, okay?
Okay.
Great. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
making the accommodations. Apologies.
You bet.
All right. So we need to go ahead and get a approval of the agenda,
Oh, we just, I think, we
except for
didn't,
those
did we?
other items
Any other?
as stated, I should say.
Correct. Well, no, not as stated.
Well, amended.
I would like to move item number 7 to the next available council meeting. The reasoning why is we have currently many vacancies on various commissions. And, there's a lot that has been going on here. And so this isn't an opportunity to pummel staff or to point fingers. But according to our ordinances in December, we as a council should have presented all upcoming vacancies and commissions, and that includes those that are set to expire. And while we have put forward those vacancies that are clearly there is no one occupying them, we haven't fully communicated to the residents of Blue Lake that there are actually other seats that they could apply for.
I would
Yeah.
like to say that these people have stepped up. They're community members. They're willing to step up.
Well,
They're
sir, I haven't relinquished the chair yet, and I appreciate that.
wonderful.
But
I look
here,
forward to that.
this is so to be clear, there are not just 4 seats available. According to the terms in the ordinances, and I guess
think
I may as well. Okay, I don't want to get that far in the weeds, but then I will conclude with this. Okay, there are 10 seats between the 4 commissions, okay, excluding the planning commission. And I feel like this council has to decide what is most important when we go to make appointments to these commissions. Is it that we do it as fast as possible? And maybe we do, given how we kind of have been running late. Or is our purpose as council people to fill seats because they're empty? Is our purpose to provide a seat to any appointee that applies? Or is our purpose as council members to ensure that the public has the widest path with the most information available to them to be able to make those decisions, to be involved in their own government? And I really would like for you guys to consider the impact of that. One person might not apply on one council seat because it's not available, and so maybe they don't apply at all, or they apply for something else, or they would apply if their friend applied. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that there are scenarios where someone would apply had they known that these vacancies were available. And according to our ordinances, it is a minimum of 30 days for us to have these vacancies posted. And there is no requirement that it be filled So I think, our ordinances are our promises to the public. And I think that it's up to the council, no matter how badly we want to make these appointments or how far we thought we've gotten them or how tedious we think it might be in the detail. The ordinances are exceptionally clear in stating that any vacancy that is occurring and upcoming, the commissioners would notify the council would notify the public. Those would then be advertised. And any of the seated commissioners, if they wish to continue, they reapply. They have to be considered with all other applicants. It's explicit in our ordinances. So I say again, is our purpose to be fast? Is it to fill the seats? Is it to accommodate the applicants, or is it to provide the widest path possible for citizens to participate in their own government? Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Maker, do we need to get to the item before it can be tabled and moved to later meeting, or
Well, you guys, I think you're still trying to set your agenda,
Right.
Peter. Um, so I'm not really sure what is happening. So I would say though that we have done all of our MADI Act posting as appropriate and as required by the municipal code and by the MADI Act itself. So we keep an updated MADI Act posting at all our facilities, including there's one at the Grange, one at the post office, one at City Hall, and on the website. So anytime there's a vacancy or a change, that's updated. So there's always a posting of commission's terms, end dates, and everything, so that the city is in compliance with all of our requirements for that.
Yes, and agreed. And you've conveyed that to me, and I try to convey that to others as well. But where we aren't in compliance is with our very own ordinances. And so, and you can see in the language of the ordinance that the commissions should have notified the council in December, that the council would have notified the public that there would be a posting and an opportunity,
That's the
that
MADI Act
anybody who
posting.
is seated, but those who are seated even in seats that are set to expire, it's not a continuation. That
Mhm.
term expires. They can reapply. They're to be considered with all other applicants. And no one is aware that those seats too are essentially vacant.
Have
They
we,
would be
have we
available.
reached item 7 yet? Or are we
we've
still
not?
setting agenda?
You're still
I
setting
think
your
we're
agenda.
I
still
would
setting
like
the
to set
agenda.
the agenda and then we can get this thing moving and yeah, there we go.
I think we should let's go ahead and wait till we get to item 7 before we consider tabling it to a future meeting.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and see if we can get a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve the agenda, sorry.
That passes unanimously. No, you did not. Sorry, apologies. Can't hear. Is dissenting.
I didn't vote either.
Okay, so we have two defending.
But I wanted to, well,
Apologize.
I'm going to pull a bunch of stuff from consent. I'm essentially going to pull everything from consent. So I don't know if you want to do that now or you want to do that when we get to consent.
Okay. Let's.
Can
We
Can we
so
go
we've
through-
approved the agenda as it is.
can I get the vote though?
It
Can
was 3-2. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on to item 7, which is appointments. Thank you very much. I apologize. Can we go ahead and open that up for public comment? Sorry. No. Thank you, everybody.
Well, I was here last time, and I think y'all remember that I requested to be on the agenda. Is that working?
You know what? What people don't understand is that the microphone does not amplify your voice. It's only for the purposes of
Yeah, but it's
recording,
confusing.
right? So we all have to speak loudly
Okay.
so we can all hear.
And to be honest, I'm not feeling very well this evening, so my energy's pretty low. So if you need to hear, just keep telling me. I'm only going to be a moment or 2 or 3, but so 3 minutes, I guess. I was here last month. No, a few weeks ago, because you had a special meeting and I requested to be on the agenda. And I'm thinking that perhaps I needed to be more explicit about why. Because I guess what we had determined, as I remember our discussion as I was done, that it was about communication with city management and concerns about my property being a neighbor to the impact of city actions and negligence impacting my property. So, seeing as I'm not on the agenda, I did something that could just maybe help y'all uh, determine that I should be on the agenda. So I'm gonna hand this, and you can pass it around. It's some photographs. I think I'm sorry I wasn't able to get copies for you all. And I can just go through these really quickly and read what I like wrote a little thing that's just a little narrative about this, and picture speaks a lot better than my words can. The first picture is there was a roof redo on Prash Hall in September, and I wasn't told about it, and I had no way to protect my property. That roof is right over my property. It just pours water, um and they nobody told me. The city didn't tell me. I woke up in the morning, they were on the roof tearing things off. There was nothing down on my property to protect it. Crap was flying down there. That was the tear off. And then the next day they came back to roof, and no protection, nothing. And at the end, and I ran over there and I talked to Alice and I said, "You guys, you need to clean up. You need to help me protect my property. There's no problem. We'll come over and clean up afterwards." And it would be coming down. I was seeing it coming down. And one item. There's a whole pile of them. Um, and at the end, they promised they were going to clean up. At the end, they've got brooms and leaf blowers, and they're blowing it all. You can see my corn right there. My garden's right over the fence. They're blowing this crap. I was going to bring a container with stuff that I got off of a 4 square foot tarp that was just covered with all that particular stuff. And yeah, so that's one thing. Uh, then the next picture is the water pouring off of Prash Hall.
Thank you very much. That was your 3 minutes. I apologize.
Gosh. Well, okay.
If
So
you want to follow up with us later, you're
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
if
Do you want to just keep these and you can review them and city council can get back to me? And I really insist that you put me either in a special meeting because it's a whole bunch of stuff. That we can sit down like adults and have a responsible adult conversation about this. I would like a special. I would like a special meeting. And
thank you.
You need to let
Um,
them take care of it.
You can go ahead and follow up with us after the meeting, and we can look to
Sorry.
address these. It's okay. I
It's
apologize.
built up. This has been
Again,
for a long time.
I apologize, everyone. We're still new at doing this. Public comment. The public is invited to do presentations, positions, make announcements, or provide other information to the city council that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The council may provide up to 15 minutes for public input session. To assure each individual presentation is heard, the council may uniformly impose limitations of 3 minutes. The public will be given the opportunity to address these items that are on the agenda at the time the council takes up each item. Thank you. Anyone else in public? Yes, Adeline, go ahead.
Okay, hello,
Yep.
Adeline Jones. My topic this evening is our city manager, Mandy Mager. I was on the council when we hired Amanda Mager as our manager. We looked closely at her time in Klamath for 13 years and the funds that she brought to the tribe there. Mandy Mager has brought tens of thousands of dollars to our city with her grant seeking and writing abilities. Some cities and districts have to contract out for grant writers. We don't because we have manager Mager. Blue Lake has had many managers from Dwayne Riggy to Wiley Buck to John Berthold. I've worked with all of them. Mandy is by far the best. None of the other managers lived in Blue Lake. Mandy Mager lives here. She grew up here. She's raising her son here. She cares about Blue Lake more than someone from out of the area would. Some of her accomplishments in the last 10 years or so have been funding 2 bridges over Powers Creek, acquiring our town square across from the post office, getting a grant for the Greenwood Avenue project for the children to get to school safely. She has hired some excellent staff members, including Emily Wood, our Parks and Rec director. Between Director Wood and Mandy Mager, they have strengthened our roller skating rink and brought many new exciting projects to Prash Hall. In conclusion, for these reasons and many more, Blue Lake is very lucky to have manager Mager leading us, and I look forward to her leadership for years to come.
Thank you. Yes, Lori Ponte, I believe.
Hi, I'm Lori Ponte. I apologize. I didn't get your name, the Arena. I would like to ask that Arena's request be agendized at some future meeting, um, so that her issues and concerns are heard and discussed and met if possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Terry Bayless, and I would like to encourage the city council, excuse me, to, I think the mic is to help them. Sorry, it's been like that all day. I would like to encourage the city council to consider having some kind of, whether it's a study session or a town hall, about our battery storage facility that's coming to Blue Lake, because we're already almost 2 months into when you signed the agreement to negotiate, and that would be on February 10th. And so I think being able to gather information and get feedback and information both from you and from the citizens of Blue Lake would be really helpful, because sometimes it seems like we're waiting until the end and then it feels rushed as a community member. So I would appreciate consideration.
Great, thank you. Yes, yes, go ahead.
Rebecca Collins, and I want to reiterate on that. I would like to see it put on the agenda as a continuing item. And I would like at least a report of where we stand with it. And I would also like to know why the LLC that signed the end of the negotiating agreement is Blue Lake Construction and not Power Transition, and why they opened their LLC in Delaware.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Kent Sawatsky. I found when there's somebody of concern, I do a site investigation of Katrina's house. I went over there and I saw what she's talking about. The project was done as a contractor, general engineering contractor. I know it's required of a roofer, and the general procedures were not adhered to. Her area should have been protected, and she shouldn't have the problem she has. Now, the biggest thing that you see here is if you go over there and take a look and you look at her pictures, the city has a major liability. I would hope that she would be able to negotiate with you and file a claim for the damages she's received. She was only able to afford to take the insulation out from under her house. If you go over there and look at what happens is all the water from that side, just about all of it's transferred down on an edge, which comes directly onto her property. The city needs to mitigate that. They need to put a gutters and downspout system, which keeps the water on their property or goes to the street. And you're at a great liability risk. And she's a very nice lady. And I think if you were and we have a 5,000 deductible. I don't know how much she spent and how much it will cost to replace the insulation, but the city would be way ahead. And this is where smart city councils take care of liabilities before it ends up in litigation, because otherwise the lawyers make happy. I wanted to point that out. So I strongly recommend that you do a site visit. Go over there and see. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's a major liability the city has caused to detriment of the citizen. I did wish to make a comment. We need to seriously look at a contract that was put out there. In my opinion, it was, I went over it and it was one of the most grossly negligently designed contracts that I've ever seen. And that's regarding the Danco project. We have no benefit from it. It's been asserted that we may owe $250,000, and that was a negligently drawn contract where we could even be committed to it. I can't understand how that was done. And as my going over this particular contract, there's a set of deliverables. And I really don't think we have any liability because that project was supposed to be completed, I believe, last year. If you look at the deliverables. So I highly recommend that you, in closed session or whatever, address that specific topic and have your counsel go over that. Your counsel did not write that agreement. An outside counsel, for some reason, did it. He reviewed it, and it's a little distressing that I, even with review, was able to be brought before it. I cannot understand how the city could be committed to something that might bankrupt the city to $250,000. They could be up to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Moving over to Zoom, we have Julie Christie.
Yes, Julie Christie again. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Okay, we are still having in Zoom land a little trouble hearing everybody. I know you're speaking into your microphones. I can see that. We definitely need to navigate our Zoom and audio recording. I've been the longest advocate for this since we were in COVID. You guys are, as a new council, are going to be getting a lot of stuff that happened in the past, and we're still resolving a lot of that. So please don't take any of this on your shoulders, but please don't also take it negatively. We always get labeled negative, but we're all just concerned citizens. And going back to the COVID days, we have recordings that were recorded on Zoom that we were never, as public or anybody, able to see. And I really hope now that we have a new council that we'll be able to get those recordings from our manager and actually be able to review them. A lot happened during that time. Even tonight, Matt Watts is trying to get on Zoom. He's being not allowed. Last night at Planning Commission, you know, we had some big items and Zoom was having problems. So I really think we need to find somebody else to manage Zoom. I think we need to find better, during COVID funding, we were told we were gonna have more money for it. I mean, Justin does everything he can, but we need to do better. I watch everybody else on Access Humboldt and we can do better. I have faith in that, but we've got to figure this out. And we've got to stop playing with it in a way that it's prohibiting public participation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Last call on public input. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move back to council. And it sounds like we are going to postpone our closed session items until 8:30, which puts us on item number 7, which is appointments to commissions. I'll go ahead and let City Manager Megger fill us in on that.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but again, I thought then at this point we were going to decide whether we would move forward with this agenda item or not.
I think we can go ahead and discuss it first, and then we can have a motion
Gotcha.
to table it after that. So
Thanks,
I
okay.
think as long as we go ahead and discuss the item, then we can bring it back to potentially do other things with it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So normally the process for the council appointments, like I said, we keep a running Madiac posting. We keep that up to date. We let the council know when we have vacancies as well. Normally, because a lot of the commissioners' terms end on January 30th, they still have their normal meeting. They usually have a meeting in February, and we usually bring back any uh, um, applications for appointment or reappointment at your February meeting. So the postings have all been done. They're all up to date. Sometimes commissioners choose not to re-up. Sometimes commissioners choose to put in applications to re-up. Sometimes no one does, and they continue on until someone wants to fill a position. So it's kind of our normal process because just kind of the way the calendar works and the way the meetings work that um, the next batch of commission applications usually come to you in your at your February meeting. So everything has been posted and noticed. I'm not sure what else council would like to see as far as those noticings, but that's the normal noticing process that we go through.
I just had a question.
Mhm.
I need some clarification of the title to administration and personnel regarding the Public Safety Commission in particular. I think maybe both of them must be um, the public notice of vacancy for at least 30 days. And I know that we haven't approached the 30th yet. And so I'm just wondering if we are needing to wait until that full 30 days of public notice before we entertain any applications for those positions.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One of the applicants has been on hold for 2 months.
Yeah.
Gloria K. Baker, she put in with the previous council.
I was speaking actually just about the safety, the
Okay,
public
yeah,
safety
because I feel like she's
commission.
already gone through all the motions.
Yeah, and we did both Phil Nava and Jason Cruz resigned to council. We posted that right away to be able to get that out in the public. And just today we received another um, uh, notice. Kim Warvey is recusing herself from the Public Safety Commission as well. So that'll have to go out and be noticed. So yeah, part of our problem was being able to have a quorum. We basically lost almost our whole commission, um, and couldn't. We talked Jason Cruz into at least coming to one last meeting so that we could keep a quorum, and to be able to have a meeting. So that's some of our issues. Sometimes what the council has chosen to do, when there's someone applies for a term and it's really close to the date, to the re-update. They've chosen, to just use that as the full term and not make them come in like a week or 2 weeks later and resubmit. Other times we've brought that application forward just to make it clean and, said, even though you appointed them a couple weeks ago, the term officially does end on the 30th. They've asked to just carry forward their application to the next meeting so it just can be clean. But honestly, we don't get a lot of people applying for our commissions, and we try and keep them going as much as we can, and at least keep the quorum going. So at least having 3 people that can, facilitate a meeting. Sorry.
Is Gloria here tonight?
Gloria is planning on being here. We thought we were going to have the closed session, so I recommended that she get here between like 7:15. So she will be here. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure how right now, as it stands, your Public Safety Commission has one person. So we won't have a meeting, and their meeting is the first Monday of every month. So it's pretty quick. So we could happily not have a meeting in February. I don't think anyone would be too upset not to have it, and but that would be kind of the situation we'd find ourselves in.
I would just like to note that you're accurate in that, yeah, we had resignations at our first meeting, which was the second Monday, I think, of the month because of the holiday, or maybe it was the first. But anyway, we haven't had a 30-day notice, so I just want to acknowledge that that's the case and support waiting, even though we do have I see a number of applicants in the room, and I hate to have people have to come back, but thankfully you're all involved citizens, and hopefully you're willing to come back for another meeting and to be appointed at that time after that 30-day notice has that full 30 days has happened.
So
Any other discussion right now amongst council?
I move that we motion to appoint Gloria K. Baker to the Parks and Rec Commission. We've been stringing that on
We need
for.
to open up the
Yeah.
public.
Oh yeah, through public, and then I think you guys know what I want. But as far as public safety, Ted's here. He's hyper qualified. I say we put him in there immediately. Justin's hyper qualified. He should be in there immediately. So, and I'm sorry, Rebecca, Donald. I need to, look into that a little bit more. But just we need to get people on these commissions, and they're stepping up, and we need to support them.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
Napier.
I do want to share with the council and the public the language that we have in our ordinances. You will find it under Title II in Administration and Personnel. This might be tedious, but ordinances are law for us. This isn't just a light policy. This is something that took time to create. I feel it's important that we adhere to that in resisting the temptations of speed and accommodation and any other way to expedite something, that first and foremost, we adhere to our own policies, our own ordinances. So again, within that, when a vacancy occurs or is anticipated for whatever reason, the chair of the commission shall so certify to the city council through the city clerk. The city council shall declare such vacancy at its next regular meeting and direct public notice of the vacancy for at least 30 days. Commission members whose terms have expired or who had previously served on the commission and who desire reappointment shall be considered with other nominees. The other item on this is appointment will expire on January 30th, and this is found under terms of office. When a commissioner's normal term of office is set to expire, the city council shall declare the vacancy in December at a city council meeting. The city council will have the city clerk notice the vacancies for at least 30 days and fill the vacancies as soon as possible. So again, I'll just read it one more time. Is our responsibility as council persons to be fast, to fill seats, to accommodate applicants, or to allow a path for all residents to have an equal opportunity to apply and to adhere to our ordinances in doing so. Thank you.
I would just
Right.
note if we're gonna do that, we need to apply that across the board for everything, not just here and there.
Agreed.
I'd like to go ahead and if there's no more discussion to be had up at council, I would like to go ahead and open this up for public input. Yes, go ahead, Alex.
My name is Alex Ricca. I was my first meeting with the Public Safety Commission was November 5th of last year. Since that time, 2 members of the committee resigned and another one just 2 members of that commission resigned prior to tonight, and the third one who was on there when I went is resigning now. That means you have 1 member of the Public Safety Commission. This year is a very important year for public safety in Blue Lake. You have a joint powers agreement coming up, suggested joint powers agreement coming up with Ferndale, possibly Rio Dell. Now, as far as Ms. Napier's concern with process, the council retains the innate right to waive any process that is interfering with a successful governance of its community, which I would say right now, unless the council wants to do away with the Public Safety Commission, you should point to 4 people who are here who showed up, signed up to that Public Safety Commission. So Monday we have a full commission and can start looking at the issues that are on the table. All jurisdictions have issues, ordinances, and when their security is disturbed because of conditions, they can waive any ordinance. Your hands are not tied. All you need are 3 votes to declare this is an emergency. We got to get things moving towards a solution. Now, if you want the Public Safety Commission to be a solution and wait 30 more days, you're in contradiction to yourselves. appoint these 3 people tonight. These 4 people tonight who all signed up, who are here and deserve appointment to the 4 council seats, to the 4 public safety commission seats, so we can do our business. If you don't do that, if you don't want that, play games with your ordinances and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Ken Sawowski, I apologize for you being totally misinformed as far as your rights to go. You can't just declare something, and I guess if there's an emergency, we're getting flooded, maybe you would do something of that nature, but this is not an emergency. You don't have, I have seen nowhere in the ordinance nor anything in any other venue in which I participate in where you're given the latitude to just go ahead and throw your policies aside because of these reasons. In my opinion, the problem is that proper noticing isn't being done by staff. It's to be done by city clerk. You don't have a city clerk. And again, proper noticing, in my opinion, would have been back when your city clerk, your interim city clerk gave notice of resignation. That noticing should have been put out there and we'd have a city clerk by now. So the process would be done as it's supposed to be done. So I do strongly caution you before you make any kind of decision of this nature to get legal counsel to let you know that you have the authority to go ahead and just throw the rules out anytime you want to. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Jean. Can you help me? Help me. Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you,
Yes.
Jean.
Go ahead.
Hang on, Jean.
Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, there's a legal process to go through the changing an ordinance. It has to go through the council, and be noticed and I think you have to have a public hearing on changing an ordinance, but you can't just take it upon yourselves, I believe, to change the ordinance right now. I don't see the emergency myself. And I know things have to be done on the safety committee, but they're not an emergency. That's my opinion. Okay, and thank you for being here. I'm gonna mute.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Becky Thornton. Um, so I'm just gonna say with Kat, you've got to follow those ordinances. They're there for a reason. They're put there for a reason, and following them is always better. As for this public safety commission, it really is just there for, resources and things like that, and they're looking into things, but it's not a total necessity. And, give proper notice. The notice has to be given and has to be within the time frame that is stated. So, but I do agree. We need to follow those ordinances. That's what they're there for.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Julie, go ahead.
Yes, Julie Christie again, and have a little grace for Jean there. It is hard to hear you guys. As far as knowing her time, and I agree with all our prior speakers. All of them had really valid points, as well as Kat with the ordinance. However, look at the turnaround on our commissions. That should be something our council should be, questioning and wondering. Perhaps these people that are resigning can maybe feel comfortable to disclose why to an individual or someone. But with the fact that we actually have this many applicants, I think is really unique. Public safety and infrastructure have been my 1 and 2 for years and years and years. So I really hate to see our public safety commission not being active. However, I feel like the most respectable and credentialed individuals that are willing to be in that process should be there, and they should be connected with our council. And so I leave it up to you guys with this decision tonight, but I feel like we are pretty lucky to have this many candidates. Perhaps we could, your next special meeting that we do, if we do have a special meeting, we could add it in there perhaps so they can be there. We can have proper notice. Okay, just some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to ask the council really quickly. We have another community member who wants to speak again. I'm hesitant to do that because then we would essentially have to do that for everyone. Right. Do you want to go ahead and just have one time? Great, thank you. Anyone else in the public? Anyone else in the public want to speak in this matter? Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back. Go ahead.
So just you guys do have a motion right now to appoint Gloria. And Gloria, this is she's been
Of a motion to appoint Gloria Baker to the. I'd like to go ahead and interview her first, if that's okay.
Yes.
If she
I think that's a
come
good
up and
idea.
come up and say some words, not just. She in.
Hey Gloria.
Hey Gloria, thanks for coming. Sorry for the delay.
It's okay. I'm early.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Dang, Mandy said this wasn't gonna be.
I know, right?
Yeah, my name is Gloria Baker. I've lived in town for about. Sorry. Okay. My name is Gloria Baker. I've lived in town for about 4 years now. And I love this community and I love all the original things about it and I love all of the new things about it. And I think it's on a great trajectory. I am one of the coordinators of Block. We have like a community investment in having fun events and bringing people into town and safe for the kids and all of that. And I wanted to join this commission to both impart knowledge and community and collaboration, but also learn what it means. So, yeah,
Great.
that
Thank
works.
you. Anybody else have any questions for Gloria?
I just have one. I wonder if you've participated with the Parks and Rec Commission in the past.
No. Mm-mm.
Do you think that your schedule would allow you
Oh.
to attend those meetings on a regular basis?
Yeah, I looked at them. They're monthly on Wednesdays right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I can also say that Gloria, even though she hasn't participated with the commission, she works really closely with our parks director. We've collaborated a lot on the art markets, the Blue Block parties. She's very engaged in parks and recreation and bringing activities to the community, and I really appreciate all that she does. The Blake Block parties that they took over this year took a huge burden off of our staff to try and move those forward. And that's kind of a perfect progression of those types of events kind of being incubated by the city and then kind of progressing over to other entities taking those on. So they did a great job and they're always great to collaborate with. And we always appreciate Gloria's enthusiasm. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
So we have a motion to appoint Gloria Baker to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Do we have a second?
I would like to second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 We have
Okay.
4-1.
Are you
Oh.
an, so are you an
What's your vote?
a nay or an abstention or
Based on what I've said before, I abstain.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Gloria. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gloria.
thanks, Gloria?
So now that that's resolved,
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Rebecca Collins, Justin Goad, Donald Shang, and Ted Hales to the Public Safety Commission.
Chris.
Could you say it again slower?
I would like to make a motion that we appoint all the candidates on the list here. Rebecca Collins, Justin Goad, Donald Shang, and Ted Hales to the Public Safety Commission.
He just motioned to notice to appoint everybody. I would like to point out that we cannot appoint four because we just learned tonight that there's a fourth vacancy. And anyway, so there's just that detail at the moment.
Does the council wish to interview the candidates or anything like that?
Yeah, if they're here, that'd be great.
Okay.
If that's a motion, Christopher, I would second it because they're here. Whether we vote tonight or not, but let's certainly accommodate that. So I second Chris's motion.
We have a first and a second.
No, you mean
What?
to, he means to,
I
he
didn't
means to
actually
just,
say
that-
To
that's
appoint?
not a motion to,
I'm sorry, what's happening? Go ahead.
he made a motion to appoint them. You're saying you'd
Oh.
like to interview them. Is
Right,
that
I
correct?
didn't say
Oh.
I
Got it.
want to make a
Okay.
motion to it.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have no second to appoint them all. That dies. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council for further discussion. Do we want to go ahead and interview the candidates since they're here tonight?
That'd be great.
Yeah,
They went
we
through all
would.
this trouble to be here and they
Great.
want to help serve Blue Lake. I'd
I'll
love to
go
hear
ahead
from
and
them.
call Rebecca Collins over for a quick interview.
I'm Rebecca Collins. I've been owned the Worthington House Inn. I've been in Blue Lake, owned property since 1995. But I've had family live here and I've lived here and I love this town from the bottom of my heart. Any questions?
What is your interest in the Public Safety Commission?
Traffic safety, I did a tally sitting out on front of the museum watching watching people run the stop signs continuously. I have an interest in the fireworks and the problems that we're having with the fireworks. I have a very big interest in the battery projects. And I don't know that much about what we do with the police force, but I do think we do need, some kind of compromise to have at least some public safety. We had our trailer stolen and it cost us $1,000 to get it back. And they took it right out from in front of our house. So they steal the gas all the time. There's just a lot going on in town. So any questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
No questions here. Thank you. Go ahead, Justin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Goad. I am currently the president of the Blue Lake Chamber of Commerce. I've grew up here in Blue Lake. Off and on, yes, I've left to go travel the country, driving truck, but always come back to Blue Lake. Last year, I managed to lose my last remaining relative that kept me here in Blue Lake. But I've been fighting to get back here in town. And I just found out today that as of February 1st, I will be a resident in Blue Lake again. But I am an independent contractor for the city of Blue Lake and for the Parks and Rec, which also satisfies the requirement. My interest in public safety, mostly, I like gathering information. I like to know facts, and I like to study things that are counter to my own opinion because I want to defend my opinion against anyone that would say otherwise. So I actually seek out facts counter to my opinion because I want to strengthen my opinion or maybe even change it because I get new information. I also have a lot of experience in running large groups. Again, I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, but I also run have ran a gaming community where we ran meetings with over 150 leaders at one time. And I assure you, trying to keep 150 people in line and keep a meeting to under an hour and a half is not easy. And that group happened to affect more than 15,000 members. So I have experience in proper orders of meetings, and I have a great interest in the safety. Um, I helped with getting access to the the horse rink when they were doing the medieval fest. Um, I I've watched my brother fall out of his wheelchair going down the sidewalk, hitting a rough spot in the sidewalk and ending up on the ground. Um, so yeah. Any other questions? I'd be willing to answer them if you have them.
No questions.
Any other questions from council? Thank you so much, Justin, for
Thank you.
serving.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Uh,
What's the policy on that?
I don't know. Thank you, Adam.
Can we? No, don't. Public comments.
Next up, we have Donald Stein.
So Donald was not able to be here this evening.
Okay.
He let us know early on that he wouldn't be able to be in town tonight.
Okay. And next up is Ted Hales.
Hi, I'm Ted Hales. I'm a retired U.S. Army military police. I enlisted in the Army National Guard in 1983 as a reservist, and military police patrolman. Became a full-time military police in 1985 and was transferred up here to Eureka in 1987 and served through the ranks from corporal to staff sergeant with the 570th and then 670th Detachment Military Police in Eureka, California, and service in Iraq. Deployed to the LA riots while I was stationed up here. Have done numerous law enforcement rotations throughout the nation. Have served in Korea, and then moved away in 2004 to finish my career in the Bay Area as the Assistant Operations NCO of the 49th Military Police Brigade, which was in charge of the emergency response for terrorist activities in the state of California. I wrote or co-wrote the emergency response training plan. Emergency response brigade would be applied to the soldier that was appointed to that. I moved back here in 2011 as a Harley Davidson mechanic. Then after retiring, I figured wrestling guys to the ground and doing that sort of thing was I was past that, a young man's job, exactly. And rather than continue in a civilian law enforcement capacity, I am currently the secretary of the Mad River Grange here in Blue Lake. I moved out to West End Road in 2017 on a little piece of property, have a hobby farm, sheep and some Highland cattle and miniature donkeys. And I've really adopted Blue Lake as my hometown. I like the feel of it. I like the people here. I like I like the atmosphere, and I think I could bring perhaps some insight. I also developed relationships while I was here with a number of law enforcement people some of whom are actually still working, and so I'd be happy to serve the town.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're not hiring for a police chief. So.
Funny guy.
No question.
Do you have any other questions from the council? Thank you very much, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to amend my motion. Since Donald's not here, I think we should just maybe go with the folks that were here to interview. So I motion that we appoint Rebecca Collins, Justin Goad, and Ted Hales to the Public Safety Commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I guess my question would be if it's within the ordinance rules to be able to do that. Or do we have to request a special exception to the 30-day requirement?
I think I think with all of the discussion that you've had, you may want to refer this to your February meeting. I feel like
Right.
there's been so many questions raised. I'm
Ryan's here
not
right now.
sure.
Can we ask him or since
Oh,
he's
is he in here?
yeah. Can we
Yeah,
ask Ryan since he's here? Is that okay, Ryan?
There is no general exemption. It's here just generally. So it requires 30 days.
Great, thank you.
It's good.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's
So,
official.
do we have a second? We don't have a second.
So
Oh,
the
go ahead.
second for what? He said if it,
For the original motion, which is to appoint today.
I thought Ryan just said that if our ordinance says 30 days, then we should follow it.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So
So
we
there's
have
no second.
we have
Oh,
the
gotcha.
motion. There's
Okay,
no
sorry.
second. So we need to make a new motion.
I move that we uh, push this to the February meeting, the appointments to the Public Safety Commission.
Just continue it to the February meeting.
Continue to the February meeting.
And I want everyone to know, I don't think you're going to have to come back and reappear. You've all
No.
appeared. It'll also give Donald a chance to come and say hi.
So I would second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
can, will we, be able to get that notice out, say before the end of the week so that we have a full 30 days for all 4 vacancies? Hopefully.
Yes, I mean the other vacancies have all been they're noticed. They've been
Right.
noticed.
But yeah, we just don't have the 30 days yet.
But we don't
And
have for Kim's
after-
resignation.
Correct. And I do want to just share that on the city website, the Matty Act is not up to date unless you've loaded this particular one somewhere. But I'm not
It's been posted on the website.
on the website
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes up, when I look at it, I see another page
Should
that's
have.
connected to the staff.
I'll have to go back in and look, but we always post that Matty Act on the website too.
Okay. There's an automatic thing that's creating a Matty Act notice, but it's not the same as this one. But we can grab
Yeah,
that
I'm
another
not
time.
sure about that.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, just real quick, I'm just curious. We're on a 30-day. What day are we on? I mean, are we 12 days in? Are we 30, 48 days in?
You know me.
30.
Well,
Are we?
I mean, Phil and Jason were in their positions a while ago, so I think we're past the 30 for them. We're not past the 30 for Kim. Hers just starts. We just received it, so
Should have asked that earlier.
might as well just
Yeah.
package it all for the next meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to item number. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to conclude on the vacancies that include those that are set to expire, which essentially is a vacancy. On the Economic Development Commission, there are 2 seats, Roxanne Rothery and Darcy Lima, that expire on the 30th. On Parks and Rec, 1 seat vacant, which it was properly noticed. And I'm not trying to imply that other things aren't improperly, but we also have a seat occupied by James Brown that expires on January 30th. On the Public Safety Commission, we actually did good. And on the Arts and Heritage Commission, we have Alice Finan, that expires on January 30th, here in just a couple of days. Julie Douglas' seat expires on January 30th, just in a few days. And then Randy Taroni's seat also expires. So that's 3 on Arts and Heritage, 2 on Parks and Rec, which 1 we already knew about, and 2 on Economic Development. Council, I appreciate your patience on these details. Thank you.
Thank you. And make sure you get that information to the city manager as well. Moving on to item number 8, which is the housing element. So this is the amendment.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Amendment of the city of Blue Lake General Plan housing element update for the 2019-2027 planning cycle. It's the 6th cycle, and this is a continued public hearing. So we're going to go ahead and open this up for a public hearing. Um, I'll go ahead and let City Manager Amanda Meger give us a little more info, as well as Gary Reese from SHN Engineering and Geologists.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So Gary's here. Gary's our city planner, and as you know, you've received several presentations on this item and kind of the process that we've been going through over the last 3 years to reach a point where we are ready to submit for a review by HCD to hopefully certify our housing element. So Gary is here to, he can kind of introduce the item and give you a little more background and kind of walk you through the public hearing process and what the next steps are.
Good evening, council members.
Evening, Gary.
Gary Reese, city planner. So I wrote a staff report for you for this evening that kind of outlines what Mandy was just talking about, what we've been doing over the last 3 years, the recommendation from the Planning Commission, the circulation of the CEQA document, and finally arriving at the City Council being able to adopt the housing element update and the CEQA negative declaration. So, we've given a presentation giving an overview at December 10th. That was a public hearing that's been continued to tonight. So the council does have the ability to adopt, if it so chooses, the housing element update and CEQA negative declaration at this meeting. You would do so through the adoption of resolution 1235. So that's essentially where we're at process-wise. If it does get adopted, as I had presented on previously, we still have to implement Housing Implementation Program HI 14, which relates to rezoning and by right procedures. We discussed that quite a bit at the question and answer session on January 11th at the Mad River Grange. We also discussed with the Planning Commission at the meeting last night as well. Process-wise, we have reached out to HCD so they can review our draft language for that implementation program and make sure that we're kind of on the same page and that being implemented properly. So we hopefully will have a meeting with them in the near future. But at tonight's meeting, obviously we're considering adoption of the housing element update and the CEQA negative declaration. I don't, beyond that, have a presentation, PowerPoint or otherwise, but am available to answer any additional question the council or public may have. And that's it for the introduction.
Thank you, Gary. Mr. Reese. Any questions from council for Mr. Reese?
No questions.
None?
Not for Mr. East, but I do have one question.
Sure, yes, go
Do
ahead.
we have any members from the Planning Commission here tonight? Take that as no. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no discussion from the council, I'll go ahead and open it up to the public for comment. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sawatsky.
This is one of the most important decisions that this council will make. I really don't think possibly that you've actually had time to actually take your time and absorb exactly what the implications of this are. It's been stated in prior things that we have to do this right now, or we're going to lose funding, or we have to engage in this process that enables a certain project to go through, or we're racist. And this is coming from our staff. This whole intertwined process of the general plan, things that go with this, and this policy seems to be something that doesn't necessarily follow the guidelines of what the city people in the audience or participants may want to see happen. And I think this is unfortunate to have spent all this time. Some things where we don't, so many things in this process are left open. We're going to take care of it later, but you're supposed to rubber stamp this now or we're going to get sued or we're going to lose funding. And that's not true. I've been around things with the state and things. They'll give you warnings. We're doing our due diligence. We probably could take another 3 years if we felt it necessary to get it right. And I just really hope that you folks have totally read this, read the other things that went through and already were approved by prior council to understand where we're at. The biggest thing I look at, and this is all tied together with what we have something called the ozone, which was put through during COVID. And one of the first things in the housing element I do agree with, number one, is to keep our rural atmosphere. And I don't think that this whole overall project, it's being done for one purpose, and it's pretty well been admitted that the Danco project cannot go forward until such time as this is passed. And that seems to be why we're getting a big rush here all of a sudden and keeps push, push, push. I'd slow play it, take your time. There's nothing wrong with taking your time and making totally informed decisions and understanding every single little thing that you're actually committing to, long-term commitments. That's my perception. I appreciate the opportunity to express that.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Hello, my name is Lisa Hoover, and of concern has been the assignment having to do with the California Environmental Quality Act, the assignment of a negative declaration to the city's housing element, and because it doesn't seem to be consistent with the potential issues raised in the document. And one example, which I've brought up before, there on page 58, it says future residential development may have the potential to result in significant impacts to species, special status species, and sensitive natural communities, such as riparian habitat and federally protected wetlands. So how could the determination of less than significant for all the environmental factors that were looked at in this CEQA document apply when the housing element and related documents state to the contrary? Another environmental factor in the housing element relates to direct and indirect effects of the proposed housing element titled Population and Housing. This factor would apply to any future growth, new residences, businesses, recreation development, in particular cumulative effects of foreseeable future actions that may affect roads, traffic, public service infrastructure. The housing element states that the item is less than significant, but this is not substantiated, nor has the circulation element of the general plan been updated to address direct, indirect, and cumulative effects of proposed developments. And relative to the application of a categorical exclusion under Public Resource Code 21159.24, it provides some areas where an application of a negative declaration would not apply. One is if you have cumulative impacts of the development, if the project and other prior approved projects can be served by existing utilities, and the site constraints in this most recent housing element actually say that there are limits to some of the sewer and water on the Powers Creek district, and that there's consistency with the general plan. So there are three things that need to be in place before you can go with a negative declaration. So I would like to ask that the council not delay, that's not the word I want to use, just dig a little bit more deeply as was presented a little bit earlier, and not approve the element right now. Thank you.
I'd like to ask you one question, if I may, Lisa. Can you state your work background and your education that kind of helps put into perspective
No,
what education? Can we do that?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But we can't ask for clarity.
We don't do a back and forth debate with public commenters, but if we have a question for a public commenter, I believe we're allowed to ask that question. Is that not true, Ryan?
I'll go ahead and take it back to council. Generally, do we want to be able to ask questions?
I would say
Maybe
yes.
one question.
Yes.
I would say yes.
And yes, we had established that in the last meeting, a special meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Becky.
I just want to agree with Kent and also with Lori. Just look into it a little more because it really isn't something that has to be done right away. Just take your time, please, and really take into consideration everything. I mean, after reading all of the California laws and all of the stuff that they've presented, it just doesn't make sense to rush into it. There's a lot of things that still have questions and that don't match, that need to be really put in order. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Lori. All right, you're hidden back.
So I was fortunate enough to attend the planning commission meeting last night and heard Gary's presentation. And my takeaway from it was a discussion item for the planning commission last night, the housing element, and I wrong? Maybe I was wrong. Right. So, okay. So I'm sorry. So it was that portion, which I think is part of this piece right now. So I would ask that the council consult with their planning commission to find out the information that they've heard, their recommendation, because I understand that's how the planning commission works differently from the other commissions, that their jobs are different to the council than just advisory. So I would ask that the council speak to the planning commission and find out what they heard, what their questions were, and what their thoughts are on this issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the public? Yes, go ahead.
So little housekeeping thing on this. If a person did not have the ability to go on YouTube and watch the city council meeting, or they couldn't attend the meeting, one of the ways that the public knows what happens is because of the minutes of the meeting. And it's supposed to be a historical record that gives somebody the flavor of what happened in here, what you passed, what you did, public hearings you had. The minutes have not been approved. They are not part, like I couldn't go to the city hall and say, can I have a copy of the minutes and request that? And they haven't been approved since September. So we have September, October, November, December, and January. And I think that puts a really big hole and gap in the information that people have at their disposal. So I would ask that the city council at least wait long enough that these are approved, they're not a draft anymore, and they're made available to the public.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Go ahead and go over to Zoom. We have one person. Go ahead, Julie.
Hi guys, Julie Christie again. Going back to my prior comment that you guys are going to have a lot of stuff on your shoulders from the past. This is one of the largest items recently. We definitely have had a lot of dialogue with change. Going back to the ozone change, there was a lot of faith in that it would be used correctly for its intent. Then we drifted into the housing element and also the other discussions with item 4 at the Planning Commission last night. So there is a lot of weariness within the public because we know it is not probably going to go in the direction that is actually sustainable for us. And that's the problem with infrastructure and sustainability. It's not what has been plagiarized and propagandaed. It has nothing to do with any other factors. We're concerned about our infrastructure, we're concerned about public safety, and we're concerned about the longevity of a community that can function and form. And going into our housing element, having the negative declaration with the CEQA exemptness is really weird. I don't feel comfortable with that. We had an ad hoc created at our economic development meeting for the gentlemen from the community that came in that have been doing their research. And you know what? We've had people like Lisa. If you guys want to do one thing as a council, get a public records request from staff on all the public comments in the past on the housing element. I think that is actually going to arise a lot of questions for yourselves because as much as we've had presentations, we've really not gotten to actually go in and edit anything and make changes. We're just expected to accept it as is. There's never been an opportunity to present changes or any kind of alters to it. And I think that's very questionable in itself. So perhaps again, table this item. If you're really concerned, write into the state as a council. Give them a something to look at and respond back to you so that you to yourself know what really the implications that we're dealing with instead of secondhand. I think that would be more enlightening to all of us. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Have another person on Zoom. Jean, go ahead. Dean, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, sorry if I mixed up on when I was talking to begin with. The audio is really hard to understand. Um, I have been thinking, and I am concerned with um, uh, on the housing element. I believe it's page 10 on the single room occupancy. Transitional and supportive housing and emergency shelters in the Opportunity Zone District. I don't know if Blue Lake can handle the idea of going for a single room occupancy and the population growth in the city of Blue Lake without having more thought into the traffic, the cost of sewer, and just the overall building that is going to happen within the city of Blue Lake. There's so much to it. I'd like the council to take a look. If I mentioned at the meeting that we had, the public meeting about Article 34 of the state of California, the Constitution, and the people in Blue Lake being able to have a vote, a clear vote on whether they want the multiple housing that is going to be coming into Blue Lake. And I believe that's something that needs to be done. If the council could please look at that, consider that before making a decision. And I think that's all I have to add. And thank you for being here. It's a big topic, and take your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Last call for public comment before we bring it back to council for further discussion. Bring it back to council for further discussion and input.
Well, I would just say that I agree that it's a big topic. I really was glad that we had our town hall, and I think that we touched on and explored some aspects there that were previously not very well understood. So I did gain some knowledge there, some clarity, and I feel like I personally would like a little more time to reflect on some of that information and finish my deep dive in a few areas that that meeting illuminated. So personally, have more time for considering adopting this.
Any other comments? Do we want to?
I'd like to make a motion that we support the planning commission's recommendation to adopt housing negative declaration of resolution 1235.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
No. So it does not pass 2-3. Let's go ahead and bring it back to council for further discussion. I think I personally just want a little more time, and I'm not saying no, but just a little bit more time to process and think about it. Does anyone else have any comments?
I do. I think that we, in a sense, have the cart before the horse. It is true that, in order to expedite things, California Rec is saying you don't have to update your entire general plan because nothing would ever get done, and you can go ahead and do your housing element. But I think there are other significant portions that, it's one thing to ask for permission, and it's another to ask for forgiveness. And rarely in the history of ever with construction when we don't have clear guidelines, do things go well? I just think that the circulation element and the cumulative effects are really something for this town to consider before we move forward. I know that there is concern about what that might cost. I know that there is so much work that this staff has put in, and I respect that. I appreciate that. What I hear from people in the town is we also want the other side of the equation to be really examined. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from council? Seeing none, can we entertain? Actually, I do have a question for staff. Um, can we set a future agenda date to review this, to bring it to vote again in the future? And if so, when would be the soonest that we could do that? Or not soonest,
Yeah,
but just in general.
I think having Gary address this, even though you've heard some comments, I don't think that um, we've clarified those same comments over time, and we're hearing the same comments, and so I'm not sure that you're receiving the information from staff. Maybe that you need to help with this process, and I'm not really sure what is you feel comfortable with this. How, like I said, we've been working on this for years. Planning Commission did a lot of work for years on this and brought you a resolution and a recommendation for adoption through a very long and arduous process. Gary's put in years of work on this as well. We had the town hall meeting that you asked for. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm not sure if that's the issue, or I mean, is there a timeline for council that where you feel like you can either, is it a hard no, you're just not going to, or is there a space or amount of time to provide you some level of comfort? I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe Gary can talk to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, please, Gary. Thank you.
So what I've heard this evening is the council would like more time to process this, digest it, and get to understand it better. A lot of the comments made were related to the environmental review. And so, that's something staff could focus more on and explain that more and get into some of the details, some of the issues folks brought up. I think what could be helpful at this meeting, if there's specific issues you would like us to speak to and present on at a future meeting, you potentially just continue this public hearing to your next meeting, and we could just continue this process. But if there's specific issues you'd like staff to address, we certainly can do so.
I mean, I personally don't have any specific issues, and a couple questions may come, but it's just really processing it and kind of reviewing it over and over. It's unfortunately doesn't consume my entire day thinking about planning and processing. That's your job, but so just kind of digesting it, and I guess that's the best way to put it. It's a big item. We're a pretty fresh council, so I mean, I would propose potentially like 60 to 90 days, and then it comes back before us for another review. In between that time, whether or not we just kind of process it, or could we have even a talk with the planning commission, or would that be against the Brown Act?
No, we could do a joint
I don't know.
session.
Yeah, just
with
like a
the planning
workshop.
commission where they can discuss their understanding of things and you guys can have a dialogue so you become better informed on the element update, the CEQA document, and obviously staff would participate in that. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not that I'm saying no. I'm saying, hey, let me just think about it for a minute.
Right.
And so I guess that would be what I'm saying.
It's understandable. I mean, the first presentation to the new council was on December 10th. So.
Right, and we were pretty jazzed at that day.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
I think I'm more comfortable with like 30 days versus 60 or 90. I'm just, we just keep.
Yeah.
Well, we have so much on our plate right now. Not to put anything off unnecessarily, but I feel so overwhelmed. I've been on the council for more than 2 years, and I'm overwhelmed. So I can only imagine how the new members are trying to absorb what needs to be done. And here we are, we got 25 minutes to go before our closed session, and we've got about 3 hours of stuff that we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
So, there's just an awful lot, and that housing element is monstrous. And to really fully understand it takes a huge amount of concentration and time. So I want to support John's request for a 60 to 90 kind of a time frame. And I think a working session would be great. I think if we could all sit down in a round table on a Saturday afternoon or something,
I work
you
on
know,
Saturdays, just a reminder.
okay,
Required for Saturdays for me.
but maybe folks can show up. We can bring snacks. We can have discussions that are you know, just allow people to dialogue and back and forth and
Yeah.
and really gain that understanding they're looking for and walk away feeling most comfortable.
Yeah, and joint sessions of the City Council Planning Commission are common in general plan update processes, so that would be par for the course.
Great.
Thank you.
I would like to just request that if there are, and I appreciate all of the resources that have been provided for us from staff, um, I would like to commit to doing my homework and being prepared for such a meeting to make a decision.
Here. So 60 or 90, y'all. You need to pick one. I'd say 60.
I think it's okay to just leave it at a 60 to 90 time frame and we're going to go forward and we're going to keep that high on our list of priority items as we go forward and get to it as soon as we can.
We have a 60 and a 90.
I'd like to make a motion that we go for 60 days versus 60 or 90 or something. I think it's something more.
Yeah, you
benefit-
guys, we need to
Nice.
tie this down to a
This needs
time
to be-
frame.
That's what we're
I
trying
mean,
to do.
make
Sorry.
this-
Yeah.
So,
No,
so
I-
we have a 60. We have
Yeah, absolutely the shortest time period. I would go with 60.
60.
30 preferably, but if we can't agree to
So we have-
60 or the 30.
We have two 60s.
60.
I guess I'm okay with that.
All right. So let's. We have
A motion for, are we going to do 60? Okay, we'll do a motion for 60 days.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
So that means we'll bring it back at our
Yeah.
regular meeting at the end of March.
And before we move on from this item, if I could just do one point of clarification. There was a couple comments that referred to a CEQA negative declaration as being an exemption. It's not an exemption. What you do to get to a negative declaration determination is you prepare an initial study. That document, is available. It's 100 something pages. I encourage you to review it. What a negative declaration does is after you go through the initial study process, that's your determination at the end. There could be three potential determinations you make after doing an initial study typically. It could be a negative declaration, it could be a mitigated negative declaration, or you can decide that an environmental impact report is required. A negative declaration is the most common determination that's been made by Humboldt County jurisdictions for their housing element updates. And Blue Lake doesn't have any circumstances that are particularly unique that these other jurisdictions don't have. So, obviously staff is recommending that is an appropriate determination. It is not a CEQA exemption, and that section that was referred to for CEQA exemptions is not applicable to a negative declaration. I just want to make that point of clarification.
I just want to be clear.
Thank you.
Everyone vote yay on that. We have unanimous.
I'm not really sure what you
Okay.
guys.
Yes, looks like it was unanimous.
Who was the motion maker?
Me. Motion for 60 days.
Fire, seconded by Napier.
Michelle.
Michelle,
Yeah.
sorry, Lewis. Thank you. All right, moving on to where are we? Sorry, we are moving on to item number 9, and we need to have a buffer too. So I don't. Do you guys think we can wrap this up in 20 minutes, or do we want to try and move into closed session because we have that limit of 20 minutes?
Well, why don't we pick we could pick an item that we can wrap up in 20 minutes.
Can
If
we?
we don't,
Can we? I don't know if we can.
No.
Can we have just a quick discussion that we have our city manager here who already wears many hats and is at this table, has really worked her tail off and it's kind of been shot down and it's not intentional. But I think that if we can provide some level of clerical support, temporary, a limited time, we can come back on that. But they're asking for, if the council could please approve on the city clerk to be able to get some transcription assistance. Is that correct, Mandy?
My recommendation is that we go out for a city clerk contract position. We have been unable to fill the city clerk duties. Every time we fill them, it's just with office staff. That's traditionally how it's been handled. And as you can imagine, attending these meetings after a full day of work, doing meeting minutes is just not something that anyone has wanted to do. And so
Thank
we haven't been able to find anyone to fill those duties. And in fact, we've had several employees that have quit because of that responsibility.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm not trying to get fully into the weeds.
Oh.
I'm trying to address the part of not a full contract for all clerical duties, but can we get a scribe transcriptionist to come in the evenings to assist, to take that load off? We can double back to the other, but at least we can get some assistance to you.
I don't know that that's necessarily, I don't think it's just about transcribing meeting minutes. I think it's about having an actual clerk who can manage your meetings and looking to go out and try and recruit for that position. I haven't been able to do it through the traditional process that we've had. And so I'm recommending or asking council to consider allowing me to go out to recruit for a contract city clerk.
So I do see this as larger discussion, and I apologize for bringing that forward. We do have the minutes to try to get to approve as well. Thank you, Mandy.
I think I want to clarify where
Yeah.
we're at right now. I think we're moving on to, we're assessing whether we can take on item 9 right now, which is city clerk duties. Do we feel that we can complete that task in 20 minutes?
But that's at the expense of approving the city council meeting minutes that I think we're.
So maybe before we decide if we're going to take another item, we're going to just, we could talk about what we're going to do with the remainder of our agenda.
I know, but right now we're on item
We're on item
9. I don't think we can, I don't think we can modify the agenda
Okay.
with, because we have that time constraint. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We also have to open it up. Seeing
We haven't discussed it yet, and I'm not even remotely interested in voting. Discuss.
good. So let's go ahead and
So
bring
there's
it back
no
to
second,
council
or
first.
it's just too
There's
early?
no second.
Okay, just it's too early for a motion.
Yeah, but
Okay,
wait till we have a little more discussion.
Learning myself.
Does anyone have any comments on the city clerk discussion? Actually,
There's lots of questions I would have. I would, one of them is how many hours a week are we talking about? Or is it going to be task specific, or what do you have in mind?
I would propose that it be fairly task specific. So I think attendance at council meetings, taking meeting minutes, preparing the meeting minutes, assisting with the final agenda preparation. Staff does all of the clerical stuff anyways, and we always have. We've always absorbed that just in our general office duties. But being able to answer any PRA requests that seem more complicated than what staff can handle, and being the oversight for elections. So, the duties of the city clerk are pretty clerical in nature. And that's why it's always been assumed under the office assistant position because there's never been enough work. And so it's been just an add on duty. But like I said, we've blown through so many staff members coming through this position because it's really hard to be. We have people who are interested in general accounting, accounts payable, those things. They're not necessarily interested in attending meetings and preparing minutes and doing those duties. Uh, we have contracted in the past. We contracted with April Souza in the past for contract services, and that worked out great. Unfortunately, she moved, and so she couldn't do those. We've contracted with um, Cheryl from SHN. She did our planning commission meeting minutes for a long time, and that worked out great. So it's just, I think it's a good option, and I'd like the ability to at least go out and see if anyone's interested in it because we've tried it both ways. We've advertised this position as a city clerk position with office duties, and we've done it the other way with, office assistant with clerk duties, and it's just not working. And I don't think it's an issue necessarily just to Blue Lake. There's not a lot of people in the municipal clerk arena. And when they are, they're usually very highly paid because they usually act in other positions as well. Like the city clerk for Eureka is also their deputy city manager. So it's usually a duty that's given to another position unless you're a really big city and you have, those, a larger process to maintain. But we're pretty small, and the duties are pretty limited. So
So what would be the difference in doing this on a contract basis versus advertising a strictly city clerk job as a part-time job?
we have tried, and no one wants to do a city clerk part-time job. It's been really difficult.
But I don't recall that in my tenure that we've ever advertised for a part-time city clerk.
We have we've had we've had job descriptions out there. I gave you, well, I have copies of the job descriptions. We've had it, like I said, advertised both ways. And the clerk duties are always the things that no one wants to do. Um, and so I don't want to continue to keep doing this. Like I had to prepare 6 sets of meeting minutes. Like it takes a long time to do all this. It's distracting for me to have to take minutes while I'm also trying to talk to you and provide you information. This isn't something that I want to continue to do. This is, there's not a lot that we have to offer. I think contracting seems, like something we could at least try. Someone might want it just as an extra job, it's kind of a side hustle, I also, someone's working and then they do this once a month for us. And, so.
So how do you see this recruitment process happening? Would you be posting a job, just like a regular
Yeah,
job
we would be
post as a
posting.
contract job?
We have a clerk job description. I'd modify that to synthesize it down to contract duties, and we would go out for recruitment. This last go around, when we recruited for our finance manager, we used Indeed. That was really helpful. It was a fairly complicated process, but it gives you kind of a larger scope. We do normal postings. We put it in Craigslist, in the newspaper. I mean, the goal is to try and throw a wide net. We're trying to attract someone. I mean, it'd be great if we could find someone in Blue Lake that wanted to do it. Like I said, it's a good opportunity if someone just needs to has some extra hours or needs to pick up some extra money. Being able to do this, it does require that you can um, pull together information and coherently, encapsulate that and prepare it nicely. And so there's some level of expectation, but I don't think it's something that's outside the realm of, interest.
Any other questions from council?
Yes. So the requisition, the request that you have would be in lieu of there being a city clerk.
No, this person would be designated as your city clerk. They would
And
just be under a contract rather than as an employee of the city.
and that would be that employee would be essentially in the chain of command of the council, as in
It would
appointed by the
be under
council.
the chain of command as dictated by the code or what the city clerk duties are. Yeah.
And um, just for the council to remember that we have a city attorney that is appointed, and we have a city, I guess, treasurer, finance that is appointed. Or I'm sorry, not appointed. They're appointed positions, but they're all contract. And I just shared that in my interactions with the public, they're really wanting to have an interface and a representative within City Hall that is sort of, a direct path to the council, which is one of the functions, as I understand it, of the city clerk. Um, I certainly respect all of the work that you've done. How you manage it on any given day, I don't know. And I think it's really important that we get you some relief on that. But whether we do it as, let's get an AI bot that is doing the transcribing, or let's at least get something that alleviates you from having to do this transcription and conduct a meeting, that's ridiculously painful. But I think how we formulate the position of the city clerk and the necessity to have some external advertising in recruitment for that, I think that really addresses some concerns and wishes of the community. So I'm bringing that forward, and I leave it to the council. Thank you.
I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing. It's just the manner of employment structure.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things. I was concerned about the sustainability of doing that and if there was a need to revise any of the job descriptions once again, unfortunately. But in the meantime, I agree that we need to do something immediately because of the urgent situation. I would like to recommend or suggest a some time frame, agreed upon time frame for a reevaluation of the situation.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And there's no way for, I'm sorry to ask this kind of a strange question to ask, but there's no way to like hire for that position and then have them do other things in the office instead?
That's
Like,
what we've tried.
okay.
That's our problem is the city clerk has always been a function of an office position because we don't have enough work for just a full-time clerk or even a part-time clerk.
Just
So,
a minute.
well, when Karen, Karen also
Point of order,
did a
sorry.
lot in our
We'll get to you
office.
guys
So.
in I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry.
So, sorry.
Continue, Mandy. I
Yes,
apologize.
Karen was amazing, but Karen also did a lot of office work, so it wasn't just a city clerk only position. There was a time, some cities have elected clerks, so that's totally different. But we don't have that structure, so we have to pick up those clerk duties somewhere. If I had, Annalie was doing it last, and she, was training to move over to the finance position. And honestly, the clerk duties was, the duties that she liked the least, and probably was a defining factor on her leaving as well. So Tony was the same thing. Tony's position had the clerk duties built into it. That's in the job description, and I almost lost Tony because of it as well. So I mean, we've been through a lot of people that just they like what they're doing in the office. They like the finance side of things. They like it's just not necessarily, this isn't a role that people enjoy. This is a very political role too. It's stressful. It's not, and, to try and force someone into this role, I don't think it's a fit, and it's shown not to be a fit. So if we can contract with someone who actually has an interest in it, I'm not trying to force someone to do something that they're not interested in doing. So.
I'm kind of curious how you see contracting. I mean, if we find the right person for the job, is there a difference between contracting with them or just hiring them?
Yeah, because it's not a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. So I see the contract position as being like they know that they're going to be putting, I don't know, 8 hours a week towards this. So I really see this as someone who probably already has a position and is looking to make some extra money, is willing to be able to attend the meetings, take the minutes, interact with us on a level. That's how we worked with April. That worked out really well.
But
But
wasn't April first full time and
she was, and then she left,
right, and then she was on a contract.
and then she came back on a contract. Yeah.
We have 5 minutes left. I'd like to go ahead and open this up to public for hopefully a brief public comment. Go ahead.
I can speak really fast. I'm going to do that this time to keep you moving what you're doing. I strongly support you entering into some kind of a contract basis. I think that you should probably form an ad hoc committee to meet with your city manager because this is your appointment. This is something that you guys appoint. I would like to see you participate in that actively. I have referred one person to the city to potentially come in and make applications for this. Haven't heard any resolution. My major concern is this was vacated back, I believe, in late November when Tony resigned, and nothing's happening to now. But move as quickly as you can because it's necessary that we have this. City clerk is a very important position. It is a firewall. It is something that checks and balances as far as the process goes. I strongly support. You may even reach out to Trinidad and see who theirs is. Maybe that person, since it's a part-time job, they're also may be willing to come with work. I'm happy to reach out, and I'm going to continue to try and find somebody for a city clerk for you. So thank you. Thank you.
I've already reached out to Trinidad. They have a full-time clerk who also does all their budgeting and acts as their assistant city manager, and Gabe is not interested. We've also sent this to all the city managers, anyone I could think of that might have someone that might be interested.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm so excited that you guys are here. Thank you so much. What a different experience we're having. I just want to say that the last two people that were hired, you hired them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, did they not understand the position?
Do you want me to answer these questions?
I think
No,
public comment.
sorry,
So I'm,
so you can
I
make
guess what I'm
yeah.
wanting to say
Thank
is
you, man.
if someone hired two people and they quit, there seems to be a problem there that is perhaps not just that they don't like taking notes. So I would suggest that in the hiring of this new person, that we explain to them exactly what the position is, so that they're not surprised, and so that they are happy to come and take the notes and what have you. And I actually liked what Kat said about getting someone in here just to get us caught up on the minutes. I think that's a great idea. First and second and third that.
We have yes, go ahead.
So I just want to comment about that as a city, we're required to have a city council of at least 5 members, a city clerk, a city treasurer, a chief of police, and a fire chief, which I'm sure you're aware of. But in order to expand the duties, the city clerk has a job, and it's well defined by the state, the California Records Act, what they do for the elections, and maybe through training, if you offered them training, even the website for the city clerks of California offers all kinds of training they can do there. But I also want to point out that the city council by resolution said that they were going to combine those two jobs. But when you look at all the government code, in order to give the duties of a clerk, it says it over and over again, or the duties of from you to the city manager,
2 minutes.
that you would have to pass an ordinance in order to do that. So it seems like giving up parts of the city clerk job and just passing them out here and there. In order to do that, you have to have an ordinance to do that. You have to define who's going to do those jobs, because that city clerk was somebody who the people elected. And then they gave that by vote over to the city council. And they said, now it's your job. So if you were going to give it to Mandy to hire, fire those positions by ordinance, you would have to give her the powers and duties to be able to do that. So I would encourage the city council to look into what the government codes are, because they're pretty clear about using an ordinance. And maybe we need to pay more for the job. That may be a big part of the problem. So I know we're on limited budget, but just exploring that, even if you were going to give Mandy the power and authority to be able to, appoint those people or hire them, you would have to pass an ordinance in order to allow her to do that. And even if you're going to give up some of your duties, you have to pass an ordinance. And that's that becomes a law. So I would encourage you to look at it.
Thank you.
Could you please remind me of your name again?
Terry Bayless.
Terry Davis.
Bayless. Thank you.
We have one more.
Sorry, go ahead.
We have one
I
more.
know,
we
I
have-
know. John,
Julie,
is it
go
okay?
ahead.
I know we
Very
need to
briefly,
hurry.
Julie, please. We need to close this down. Julie, go ahead.
Okay, city clerk is a high honor, and we do need separation of powers. I do believe Mandy should get out the application, and we as the public that already take on the honor of myself advertising the agendas and the calendar, we have the power to get it out to the people. Once we have it in our hands, we have a great community that can get it out to our community. And I do think that our council needs the preview of this application process. I think you guys need to have input on who we hire. And I am more than happy to volunteer as a citizen to help with minutes. As long as the audio is good in the recordings, I'm more than happy. I think you would have more people step up, just as little liaisons like myself, to step in on minutes if that takes the burden off in the meantime. So get the application out and we will circulate it. Happy to do so.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and public. I don't want to not listen to everyone. I want to make sure everyone's heard, but we're going to have to bring it back for, I think, a closure at this point because we did agree to the 8:30 time to end the session.
Can I make a motion?
What
Are we closed?
point of order, Mandy? Go
What are we
ahead.
doing all that for?
Can we
I'd like
ease
to
it?
make a motion that we authorize the city manager to recruit for city clerk services on a contract basis.
Not ready yet. Sorry.
Is there a second? I don't see a second. Let's go ahead and bring it back, but we're going to need to do something very quickly. So go ahead.
I would like to suggest that we advertise the job of city clerk, and we say that it could be either on a contract basis or a part-time basis. And so we get that word out there, we can do it right away, and then we have the flexibility to hire in different ways based on what sort of a response we get. I would also like to say that I think the council should be involved in reviewing applicants and interviewing applicants along with Mandy so that we have a wider net of support in this process, and that we can have our best, hopefully best possible chance in having a successful hiring. So those are my thoughts.
Are we still
I
discussing?
I
We
think
move to adjourn
I
and
think we need to go ahead and table the item. Most likely is the best course of action
Well,
until we.
or
if we can get through this in another 5 minutes, can we just get through it so we can start
well, I think
looking
that
for
it always
somebody?
turns into. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's all I'm trying. I'm just. Is there any possibility we could just power through this in 5 minutes and so that Mandy can go on and start to advertise?
I would like to, if we are going to continue to discuss the role and duties of the city clerk, and it's going to take a little bit of time, I would like to make a motion that we provide the support for Mandy to get the immediate relief that she needs. This is not a sustainable plan for her to continue to do these duties
Okay.
and advertise. However, in the interim, I feel that she probably is in need of someone on a more immediate basis and would get that support from a temp agency if needed or whatever.
Can we consider then an ad hoc committee that you guys can? I mean, it satisfies both ends. I wouldn't want you to have to wait for another city council meeting before we even conclude the process. But I think also the council is expressing that they have some ideas within that. Is that workable? A good compromise?
I would be happy if you guys want to have an ad hoc or appoint one commissioner or council member to work with me on this. I mean, the duties of the city clerk are identified in the code. So it's not a matter of identifying the scope. Those are clearly defined duties in the code. And so that's what we need to recruit for. And if a council member wants to assist me with a recruitment, I have job descriptions already. We could tweak those. You could review them. I really don't care how this happens. I just really need to get this position out there. And I've, like I said, I've been down this pathway now for 10 years with this revolving door of city clerks. And it's usually, like this, and our job descriptions are always very clearly defined on duties. And when you're assuming the clerk duties are always in the job description, we always talk about this. So, I mean, whatever works for you guys to give you a level of comfort, I would be happy to work with that. I would just like to get something out. I'd like to fill this position.
So, if I can speak freely,
Yes, please.
Michelle, do you have any interest in partnering on that, or does anybody? I mean, just to move or retabling
I'll
it.
go ahead and point to it if that's, or we can come up with, if you guys want to make a motion to do an ad hoc.
I'd be happy to try to help with that.
Let's go ahead and get a motion and I'll go ahead and select 2 people to,
Well, who? Okay.
I'll go ahead and select. Did you say only one person can
I
assist?
I mean, it starts getting hard with everyone's schedules and
Great.
stuff. And it's not, I mean, it's not overly complicated. That, like I said, I already have a job description you could look at and, you could even take it home and mark it up.
I'm going to let the council decide whether you want 1 or 2 and then I'll go ahead and pick the 2 for the ad hoc.
I think there should be 2 people. so that we have the ability to discuss. Otherwise, we can't talk to each other, and then that's really hard.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, so can we entertain a motion? We are past our 8:30.
I would like to make a motion that we form an ad hoc committee to help Mandy to develop a job posting and then to also help her review applicants for city clerk, and that posting would be for a part-time position, and it could be filled either through a contract or a direct hire.
Do we have a second?
Second. That was a long motion.
So can you go ahead and repeat that again? I'll have you repeat it again for Mandy at the end.
I got it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mandy.
It's recorded.
So we have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Abstain.
We have 4 in favor, 1 abstaining. Chris? I'm going to go ahead and, if it's okay with the council, select 2 members to be on the ad hoc. Chris, are you willing to participate in it?
Oh, I'm not interested. I mean, if you can find 2 others, that'd be great.
Great. I'll go ahead and select Pat and Michelle to be on the ad hoc for the selection process. Do you guys accept that?
I can't possibly work with Michelle. She's too nice. Yes, yes, that's
No
fine.
problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So we'll go ahead and move into closed session. Thank you everyone for coming. We're assuming this is going to be an hour. We probably won't come. Ryan, go ahead. Oh, thank you. Apologies. Thank you. Let's go ahead and open
Are
that
we
up for public comment.
Before everybody runs away, are we able to discuss whether or not we're gonna come back to our agenda, not tonight, but at another meeting? And can we say when that's gonna be?
We can probably do it.
I think you guys are gonna, I mean, the pace of these meetings, I think you're gonna need your second meeting in February. I'm not seeing things moving quickly or
So we have, I think we have 2 options, right? We can either continue this meeting for another night this week, or we can just continue all of it to our next meeting in February.
I think if you're gonna continue it to February, you need to do your second Tuesday. I think you're gonna need 2 meetings in February.
Can't we just close this meeting tonight and then continue it tomorrow? I hate to say to do that, but I think that's what we have an option to do, right? Can we decide that at a later time or by the end of the time?
Maybe Ryan, you can provide them some guidance.
The council wants to adjourn the meeting tomorrow night.
Mm.
That would need to take place
Okay, great. Thank you.
So if we do that, then there will be a physical posting on the door tomorrow, and we'll post that as a news item on the website. Is that how we do that? Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming. Go ahead and we need to do public comment on the closed
Closed
session
session
item.
items,
Okay,
yes.
does anyone have public comment on the closed session items? Yes, go ahead, Becky.
So since there's the manager's review, this is sort of what I'm shooting for here. So I want to just go over some things that we have observed over the last several years concerning our city manager and other councils members. There's been pushing through of projects without public input during a pandemic. We had unwillingness to work with the Blue Lake Ranch RIA, putting fear into the community about losing our town to the state or becoming unincorporated if we do not build affordable housing, preventing a community member from accessing animal control when their dog was viciously attacked, presenting false misinformation on the sheriff contract to the citizens of Blue Lake, gaslighting the public, lack of professionalism in communication with citizens who request help at City Hall, using the COVID relief funds for non-essential expenditures like starting the gift store for Parks and Rec, displaying favoritism when supporting businesses in town, unwillingness to work with certain community members, failure to show cost-benefit analysis for large projects and expenditures, and refusing to give full accounting of grant expenditures, failure to maintain proper checks and balances within the city government by merging the clerk position with the manager's position, which I'm glad you're going to separate all that, which we discussed a long time ago. Exhausting the Parks per capita grant for non-essential light and sound upgrades instead of putting it on the roof of Prash Hall. It was basically the roof was put aside to do all the other projects, which probably the roof should have been done first, especially after listening to the one lady earlier. So before going into the closed session, I just wanted to go over these situations with you to let you know what the public has seen. After seeing no improvement over time, I am hoping with this new council, you can listen to the concerns of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Julie Christie.
I'll be short. I've been participating for many years and I concur every statement Becky just made. And I feel like within emails and letters to the lawyer, you guys are going to be privy to a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Angela. If you can come up and speak on the mic.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Becky said as to what we've endured or what has happened. I know that City Hall was weaponized against me, and after like a 2-year fight, I got a letter from the city attorney. The harassment continues. I got a packet the other day for accusing me of running a business out of my home. I don't run a business out of my home. It's just one thing after the other. So I hope that you guys take everything that Becky and I said into consideration. I think everyone should be treated fair and equally, and people should not be singled out and City Hall weaponized against them.
Thank you. Go ahead.
City manager in itself is a very difficult job. The average lifespan I see of a city manager in any area is about 5 years at the most. Some of them turn over more frequently than that. City of Eureka did 3 managers within 3 years until they got one now they're happy with. Unfortunately, what happens is sometimes when you have a city manager that actually lives in the community and is part of the community, you have long-term issues that that person brings into their decision-making process, such as our lack of ability to get along with the rancheria, such as the lack of support that our biggest business here, that we had a letter that I could bring to you from prior meetings from the down here at the brewery. And some of you may not have been involved or seen these things where they came in and said, we've had no support. That's still ongoing, and I verified that 2 days ago. I take the time to do my research and follow through. And there still seems to be lack of cooperation with the businesses. We don't have them here. And I, again, have felt like I've been selectively used enforcement against inappropriately, just selectively, because of a lack of willingness to cooperate and totally do what somebody wanted me to do. So I do caution that, and I think that at such time as you may consider finding a different city manager, it's sometimes best to get someone who doesn't bring years and years of relationships. Didn't get along in the sandbox in 6th grade, still doesn't get along, and those kind of issues some people seem to not be able to let go. So that is something that I think you may consider during your thing here as far as effectiveness and ability to move forward in this position. Thank you. Up to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? This is going to probably be the last call if anybody's. Nope. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll go ahead and be entering into closed session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.